Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to talk about my personal experience dealing with Toronto lawyer John David Ekpenyong. This lawyer had a client who retained him to drag me in family court unlawfully on a restraining order application that was never signed. Dealing with John David Ekpenyong has been an absolute nightmare. This lawyer has shown he has no boundaries. He does not follow the rules when it comes to filing. He has no boundaries at times communicating with me, emailing me at all hours of the day. He has blocked me at times, trying to communicate with him. And essentially why I'm making this video is because dealing with this lawyer for 3 years as an opposition, he has been caught lying to several judges. He submitted a fraudulent bill of costs of $160,000 that was never worked or money exchanged hands. He admitted in a court document, it was an exhibit, that he charged his client $7,000 plus HST. The Law Society refuses to do anything adequately in a timely manner, and I think it's in the public's best interest to know what I'm about to say. I am making this video truthfully. I gain nothing from misleading anyone with information. I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm just here to share my experience dealing with John David Ekpenyong, and from everything that I'm going to go over, I think it's evident that this lawyer should be disciplined by the Law Society, but I'll get into the current complaint pending against this lawyer. So John David Ekpenyong has lied to several judges, starting from his initial application, his restraining order application that he filled out for his client. And he tried to persuade the courts that I am someone who harasses, stalks, and lays in the wait. And that is straight up slander. That is something I've never done. That is something not in my character. That is frustrating, to say the least, to hear that, because it's not true. So let's start off with this lawyer's lies, because he's just lies. In May 27th, 2022, we went before Justice, I believe it's Kathleen Bingham, of the Kitchener Superior Court Family Court Division. And at that hearing, John David Ekpenyong straight up lied to that judge and told her that he did not receive an affidavit, when in fact he did. He actually responded to that email, and he said something down the lines of, like, you can't go next, and it sounded like he got something mixed up, but I was just sending an affidavit responding to his ridiculous claims. And then at that same hearing, this lawyer was heard telling me to shut up, which was very shocking, because you rarely, if not never, hear a lawyer tell someone that they're opposing to shut up. In an email, he had ordered transcripts, and those transcripts, it said, he told me to shut up. I confronted to him about that in an email, and he told me, look, there's the transcripts. I didn't tell you to shut up, which is straight up gaslighting when you guys see the email. And then also in that same response, he told me, he mentioned about me sending an offer to settle. I wanted to settle this family court matter. I had no business being in the family court matter. Mind you guys, I was dragged to family court for 3 years on a restraining order application that was never signed, with an applicant I was never married with, had children with, or lived with, which is the bare minimum common sense that any judge should know. and that was ignored. Um, that was ignored. And in fact, a police report was hidden for 2 years where John David Ekpenyong's client, excuse me, admitted to these living arrangements. Um, so then, they've been defaming me nonstop. They've been slandering my name, making all these false accusations. So I did start a small claims matter for defamation and slander. And at one hearing, John David Ekpenyong, so he settled a settlement conference or a motion. He filed a motion, told Deputy Justice Familia that he served me and that I refused to show up. And so the following day of that hearing, he sent me an email saying that I refused to show up. And this is all in an email. And he was saying, oh, I'm glad I included you in the email. I'm looking right at it. And I'm saying to him, like, what email? What are you looking at? Show me. He refused to show me. So he says, no, the court emailed you. I'm looking at it. I had to email the court. And they had sent me a copy of that settlement conference email. And my email wasn't in there. And for anyone that doesn't know, if you schedule a settlement conference or a motion with a small claims court, you're supposed to serve the other side, or at least not, you're supposed to email them, share them, like of the date. John David Ekpenyong never did that. I brought this up I had to file an emergency motion to get in front of a judge, Deputy Judge James M. So what happened was, I'll back it up. At Justice Familia, he scolded me for not showing up, which he was completely lied to and misled about me not refusing to show up. I just never knew about it. And he ordered me to pay $1,700. So I had to, file an emergency motion. I get in front of James M. And he revoked the $1,700. And you know what? That deputy did, when I brought it to his attention, he did absolutely nothing about John David Ekpenyong lying. He was saying that we're not here for that. I'm not here to address that, which was pretty frustrating. I had to schedule an emergency motion because John David Ekpenyong lied to Deputy Judge Familia, and I lost that because of the lies of John David Ekpenyong. And this Deputy Judge, Justice James M., did absolutely nothing, just put it back in the queue. One of the most devastating lies that this lawyer did was, after I lost the 2-day rigged family court restraining order trial, again, no trial schedule endorsement form was ever filled out, served, and filed by John David Ekpenyong. In fact, Justice Martha Ann Tweedy on November 10th, 2023, after rejecting 2 of John David Ekpenyong's trial schedule endorsement forms, she rejected the 3rd one, but then filled it out, stepping outside of her impartial duties as a judge, and did the counsel's job. I mentioned that the parties are supposed to do that, and then when later on I tried to get the audio recordings, Justice Tweedy denied it, and then when I ordered the transcript, she blocked it almost 2 pages of transcripts to cover up a potential serious misconduct. And I would just like to see what this judge has blocked out, and I haven't been able to do that so far. And I'd appreciate it if someone would unblock those transcripts so I can stop guessing what I think happened, and maybe I believe it's in the public's interest to know what Justice Tweedy blocked out. But I brought this, so we get to this family court trial. I bring this up to Justice Gibson's attention, and that's when he said, well, we're here now, we're going to deal with it. If you look at Rule 17, Sub-Rule 11, it states that parties must fill out, serve, and file their trial schedule endorsement form before any trial is scheduled. That was never done. If you look at all the files that's been filed with the court, the applicants, John David Ekpenyong, never filed that form. So not only was I unlawfully dragged through family court, the bare minimum basic forms were never filed to properly schedule a trial. When I lost that trial, John David Ekpenyong requested $15,000 for the the family court trial. I rejected that. I said that was ridiculous, considering if you look at Rule 24, if a losing party loses, they can still request for cost. If the other party has caused delays, doesn't show up. They give all these examples that John David Ekpenyong he did them all. So that's when I asked Justice Gibson I asked him for $15,000, considering all the damages occurred. That's when John David Ekpenyong foolishly and criminally requested for $160,000 in court cost for hours never worked and money never exchanged hands. In fact, if you go back to that trial, and if you guys were to hear this trial, and I think anyone can order the audio recordings, you would hear Justice Gibson scolding John David Ekpenyong for submitting a commission document unsigned by his client, admitting to paying $7,910. That document, yes, was commissioned and unsigned, and Justice Gibson lost it. So I am still very bothered from the fact that Justice Gibson entertained a fraudulent bill, knowing that money was never paid. Those hours were never worked. You pay court costs to parties, not a judge, not a lawyer. So I still am very frazzled about that, and it's frustrating because nobody wants to talk about it or address it. I tried to in the Court of Appeal. I did the whole process of appealing Justice Gibson's endorsement for cost and the order. Obviously, there was errors of law and errors of facts. It was night and day, the errors made, especially this $160,000. And sorry, so Justice Gibson ordered me to pay $60,000. And when we went to the Court of Appeal, John David Ekpenyong, he basically lied to. So I lost the appeal. It was just another straight up. It was unfair. It was practically corrupted. Considering the handlings of my materials and what was said on that endorsement, I completely disagree with it. It was, John David Ekpenyong filed his materials 40 minutes before the hearing, the day of. Justice Familia accepted his materials 10 minutes before. John David Ekpenyong's materials, his factum, his affidavit, were unsigned and uncommissioned. And at that appeal, after I lost, John David Ekpenyong asked for a cost of $7,000 because he said he spent 30 hours on his materials. It was a 2-page factum and an 8-page affidavit. He straight up lied and said he spent 30 hours on that. You don't need to be a lawyer or a judge to know that. And when someone submits a fraudulent bill, the courts should not be entertaining that, and they should be shutting that down immediately. But these judges, dealing with these judges, they don't do that with me. They're just burying me financially and awarding cost for work, hours never worked, and money never exchanged hands. So John David Ekpenyong lied and said he spent 30 hours on those bare minimum materials. Friday at 4:30, John David Ekpenyong emailed the Court of Appeal and spoke to Simon, talking about his materials. He sent me his materials on that Sunday, the following Sunday, at 10 o'clock at night. 4 o'clock on a Friday, and Sunday at 10 o'clock. It's about a 50-hour window. John David Ekpenyong did not spend 30 hours on his appeal materials, and his client did not spend $7,000. Like, this is straight up an abuse of power, like abuse of court process. Lying to the courts, getting awarded costs that was never, hours never occurred, money never occurred. Like, so another thing was that when towards the end of the whole family court thing, I noticed that the application was never signed by John David Ekpenyong. And I tried to bring that up to Justice Gibson and sent it to his assistant. I think it's Miss Goodwin. And in that, there's an email chain where John David Ekpenyong straight up lies to the judge, saying that this application that's unsigned, which makes it invalid, was okayed by a few other judges, which it never was. Nobody never caught that this application was unsigned. Think about it. All these judges, all the court staff never noticed this. I got unlawfully dragged to family court on a restraining order application that was never signed. Does that not make the application invalid? Does the applicant not need to sign it? I think so. John David Ekpenyong lied to Justice Madsen on January 22nd, 2024 to speak to. At that day, I was sitting in, I was at work. I thought it was going to be very brief. It was ended up like 3-4 hours in there. John David Ekpenyong never even showed up until 2.5 hours later. I'm pretty convinced that the courts notified him, telling him that he's being called the way he showed up. He lied to Justice Madsen that day when she asked him how many days is the trial. He said 3, knowing it was only 2. I spoke up. I said it was 2. Justice Madsen confirmed that. John David Ekpenyong lied again to Justice Madsen when she asked him if he had served his trial record. He said yes. He did not. And she caught him lying there too. Like, he lied to Justice Bingham, the Deputy Familia, Justice Gibson, the appeal judge, Justice Madsen, lied to court staff. So, John David Ekpenyong never signed his applicant's trial schedule. John David Ekpenyong never filled out, served, and filed the trial schedule endorsement form. I was unlawfully dragged through family court and wrongfully thrown into a trial with a head injury that I couldn't get out of. I was forced into it. So he never signed the restraining order application, or he commissioned it without his client's signature. He submitted his affidavit and factum to the Court of Appeal 40 minutes before. It was unsigned, uncommissioned. This lawyer has no boundaries, sending me emails. He intentionally tries to upset me, sending me emails on New Year's Eve at 8 o'clock at night. He sent me 4 or 5 emails at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the on Sundays, Saturdays. So another big thing that this lawyer has maliciously done to me is that when the court I was ordered to pay $60,000 in court costs. Again, that was never worked and never paid. I've never been in this situation before, so I don't know how to proceed, right? Like, I'm assuming I'm going to get something to make payments. There was zero communication from John David Ekpenyong about making payments pertaining to this ridiculous court order to pay cost. John David Ekpenyong, I'm going to be honest, like a little coward that he is, runs to the courthouse and says, I refuse to make payments, starts a garnishment application. My bank accounts have been frozen since September 6, 2024. I was working out in Windsor at the time, paying for my Airbnb. I had a lady taking care of my cats back home in Burlington. This has financially suffocated me. This lawyer tells the courts that I refuse to make payments, but the truth is, he refuses to accept any payment plans. He refuses to unfreeze my bank accounts. We're heading into April 2025. My bank accounts are still frozen. to be honest, I don't know how I'm still surviving. I am struggling. Obviously financially, and a lot of people don't know, but mentally. This has the mental anguish I have undergone dealing with this lawyer and what the courts have allowed him to get away with has been very troubling, to say the least. The whole garnishment thing was a disaster with the family court. The trouble they gave me filing materials. That's September. They take their time and drag this out, and they make me wait all the way up until January 9th. January 9th, 2025. I go to a garnishment dispute, and the headache I went through to get there with this Kitchener court staff rejecting my materials. There's actually a short on my page showing you all the times they rejected my materials when there was nothing wrong with it. They kept saying because of the file number. But if you look at the end, the judge's endorsements, they always use the same file number that the courts clerks kept rejecting. That garnishment dispute was before Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, the same judge who blocked out almost 2 pages of transcripts. And at that hearing, I was clearly in distress. I kept asking for why did Justice Tweedy do that, and why did she block it out? She would not answer me. I think I have the right to know why the judge blocked out these transcripts. Like I've been saying, I'm convinced she did something that could get her in trouble and get her in a misconduct. And she still to this day is hiding those transcripts. So we went to that garnishment dispute. John David Ekpenyong did not file any materials. Filed 0 materials. He caused all these adjournments, and I lost that garnishment dispute. Imagine that. I lost a garnishment dispute with the applicant filing no materials. He he was late 60 days filing his divisional court response. He took a year to file his additional materials. Courts allowed all this, ignoring, Rule 16.310 for filing by email, or is it 1605 something 5AB? It's in the 16 rules, right? Like this lawyer never followed these rules, and the courts kept giving him extensions, which is unfair and prejudice. It's straight up. This lawyer, still to this day, refuses to unfreeze my bank accounts and refuses to accept any payment plan for that amount. This is no more about recovering their money, making payments. This lawyer is straight up trying to put me on the street. And, there's something, when I analyze John David Ekpenyong's behavior, his actions, how he contacts me late at night, everything. I'm going to be honest, it seems like, I'm trying to be careful what I say. But it's clearly there's some type of, I feel like he's being racist towards me. Because why would you do that to somebody? Why would you run to the bank? Why? He's discriminating. I feel like I'm being discriminated against. I feel like I'm a victim of discrimination, because if you guys, and hopefully I can do this, I can share all my communications with him. I have begged and pleaded so many times to please unfreeze my bank accounts. It is inhumane what this lawyer is doing to me. I have animals. I'm being affected by this. I can barely pay my bills. I don't know how I'm still not homeless. To be honest, this lawyer does not have any regard for the harsh conditions restrictions he's put on me. To be honest, he has no regard. And he keeps commenting about his client. And he's commented so many times. It's almost like, geez, do you have a crush on your client? Like, it's just, this is what I observe, right? Again, I'm not misleading anybody. I'm speaking the truth. I'm observing things, and what this lawyer has gotten away with. He should be disciplined, and he should lose his license. He's tried to extort me 2 times during the family court matter. He has, one time he tried to, he's refused, he's rejected my offers. Like, we wanted to resolve the family court thing. I wanted out of it, but I couldn't get out of it. Like, I lost 3 jobs over the family court matter. I'm a licensed electrician. I'm educated. I've worked very hard for my whole career, and I feel like it's almost like over because of what John David Ekpenyong got away with, the abuse I took in these courts. And I tried to resolve the family court matter with John David Ekpenyong, and one time matching his offer, and both times he rejected my offer. He wanted $20,000 one time, and then he wanted $27,000. This was straight up extortion. I couldn't get out of the family court matter unless I gave in to the extortion, paying money that was never paid, because this lawyer admitted on an unsigned commission document that his client paid. Oh, sorry guys, we got Ozzy here walking by. My cats, who I love so much, who are being affected by this. But he admitted on that document that his client paid $7,000, not 20, not 27, not 160,000, not 60,000, 7,000. Right? I filed a complaint against this lawyer with the Law Society. The Law Society, to be honest, has been dicking me around for almost 3 years with this complaint. If you go look on the Law Society's website and you see, reasons to file a complaint against a lawyer, there's like 3 or 4 of them that clearly apply to this situation. When you have a lawyer being dishonest in submitting fraudulent documents, committing perjury, getting caught lying to not one judge, but 5 or 6 or 7 of them, they should be disciplined. But this goes to show you how broken and corrupted the Law Society is. Because the Law Society compels of lawyers handing complaints against lawyers. And then who funds the Law Society? Lawyers. So the Law Society complaint department should be removed. It should be like, it doesn't work. And the person I've been dealing with over there is Ari Cashton. And it seems evident that this person is just straight up abusing their power, and they're just dicking me around. Like, he keeps telling me, oh, we're investigating. No, he's not. There's nothing more to investigate. This complaint should have been dealt with 1 year. In fact, if you look at Justice Gibson's endorsement, and you'll see in there that he told me that, if I was a lawyer, that I would file a complaint, or he made some comment. It was just all these harsh statements towards me that I don't understand why they're so inaccurate. But he said that a complaint with the Law Society would have been warranted if I am concerned about the conduct of John David Ekpenyong. Well, guess what? I did file a complaint, and they don't work. None of the complaints work. So I think it's important that I share all this, what happened, dealing with John David Ekpenyong. And these are the things he did. And like he was charged with, that whole process, him being charged with perjury and spitting fraudulent documents. And then the Crown, on my 4th appearance, stood up and saying, William Lim, I think it was, we're staying the proceedings. They haven't even started yet. They're staying them. So it's very troubling. Every event that I just spoke about, and I think, the thing is that the main thing here is that this lawyer submitted a fraudulent bill of costs that were never worked and money never exchanged. Okay, I owe $60,000, which is bullshit, but let me start making payments. Unfreeze my bank accounts. Let me start making payments so I have access to my $15,000 line of credit. You know, it just doesn't make sense how this lawyer is allowed to get away with this. And the other thing is this, I lost the garnishment dispute. So what's next? Like, nobody knows. Lawyers don't know. The court don't know. Legal aid, like duty counsel, nobody knows. My bank accounts are frozen. I lost a garnishment dispute. When are my bank accounts going to be unfrozen? See, one of the biggest piss-offs about all of this is that I can't keep a job. I might have to claim bankruptcy because of John David Ekpenyong wants to do the devil's work and maliciously handle this the way he's doing. And then he runs to the courts and tells them I refuse to make payments when I've got emails where he will not accept any payment plan. So this is the problems I've had dealing with this lawyer, and it's in the public's best interest that I share these events. Again, I've got nothing to gain to mislead. I do my best to minimize the criticizing. But anyone with a logical or rational thinking process mind would be like, this is messed up. How does this lawyer get away with this? And you know what? I'm trying to figure that out. How has he gotten away with this? Like, why are the courts, law and the law society encouraging and supporting and protecting this unethical conduct? So, very disappointed. The other thing too is, I'm involved in 7 charities, monthly donor. Some of them are going on 2-3 years. If I have to claim bankruptcy, I can't stop contributing to these. I have to stop contributing to these charities, which makes me feel good as a person. So it's just this whole ripple effect of this corruption, this unethical conduct. Judges allowing this, the law society dragging it out. There's so many problems and issues dealing with this lawyer. So if you guys have experienced something similar with another lawyer or this lawyer, please comment in the video and let me know. I hope this video is helpful to you guys, shedding light to this type of conduct. And thank you guys for watching. I'd appreciate if you guys like these videos to please subscribe, please like, show your support for the channel, and thank you guys for watching the video.